I received a letter from a man who died 3 years ago. Inside was only an address and a note, "You've been here before. Look to the right." I drove there, and saw myself standing in the second-floor window. My name is Oliver Kane, an independent reporter who creates stories for my YouTube channel about mysterious disappearances and unexplained phenomena. Everything I publish is thoroughly verified, based on facts, confirmed documents, camera footage, and witness testimonies. I don't play with the supernatural, I deal with reality, even if it borders on the inexplicable. And that's exactly what destroyed me. Or, is destroying me now. The letter arrived Monday morning. Simple gray paper, postmarked from Seattle. Sender, Lucas Darnell. The name was familiar to me. He was a guy who disappeared in 2020 after visiting an old hospital on Highland Road. Back then, it was a dead-end story, the police attributed everything to depression, and the body was never found. I hadn't managed to follow up on it, too much work at the time. And now, his letter. On a blank sheet, just an address, 1013, Baxter Lane, and at the bottom, a note, "You've been here before. Look to the right." I studied the letter for a long time, running my fingers over the paper. The postmark was dated 3 days ago. I checked Lucas Darnell's case file again. He had indeed been declared dead in 2021 after an extensive search yielded nothing but his abandoned car near the woods outside Seattle. This has to be some sick joke, I muttered, but curiosity, the kind that had built my career, was already stirring. I pulled up a map on my laptop. The address existed. An old building outside Seattle city limits, officially listed as closed since 2002. A former private psychiatric facility called Evergreen Haven. My producer, Mia Chen, called just as I was packing my camera equipment. "Oliver, we need to talk about the Henderson case," she said, her voice crisp with efficiency. The interview fell through. "I've got something else," I replied, holding the letter up as if she could see it. "Something strange." "Strange pays the bills," Mia said with a sigh. "What is it this time?" I hesitated. "A letter from Lucas Darnell." The silence on the other end lasted just a beat too long. "The guy from the Highland Road case?" "Oliver, he's been dead for years." "I know. That's what makes it interesting." She didn't try to stop me. After 5 years working together, Mia knew better. Instead, she simply said, "Take your satellite phone. Cell reception is spotty in those old buildings." The drive to Baxter Lane took almost 2 hours. The road narrowed as I left the highway, winding through dense Pacific Northwest forest. The rain, a constant companion in this region, had settled into a misty drizzle that clung to everything. I parked my car on the shoulder of the road, the tires crunching on wet gravel. The building looked exactly as I expected, 2 stories, peeling paint, overgrown yard, broken windows. Classic abandoned property fare. I'd visited dozens like it for various stories. Yet something felt different this time. The air seemed heavier, charged with an expectancy I couldn't explain. As I approached, I noticed one window on the second floor was clean, as if it had been recently washed. It stood out against the grime and decay covering the rest of the structure. I pulled out my camera, adjusted the lens, and took a shot. That's when I froze. In that very window stood a man. Looking directly at me. And, he looked like me. Exactly like me. Same olive green jacket. Same wire-rimmed glasses. Only his gaze was different. Calm. As if he knew I would come. My heart hammered against my ribs as I lowered the camera. I blinked hard, expecting the figure to disappear, a trick of light, a reflection. But he remained, watching me with unsettling stillness. "Hey!" I called out, my voice sounding thin in the damp air. The figure didn't respond. Didn't move. I hurried inside, driven by a mixture of fear and an almost manic curiosity. The front door swung open at my touch, hinges groaning in protest. The interior was covered in dust, but oddly free of debris. No beer cans, no cigarette butts, none of the usual signs of transient visitors. It was tidy, as if someone had been maintaining it. The entrance hall still bore traces of its former elegance, high ceilings, now water-stained, and ornate moldings framing doorways. On the walls hung empty picture frames, their glass long gone but the frames wiped clean of dust. "Hello," I called out, my voice echoing back at me. "Is anyone here?" My footsteps sounded unnaturally loud as I made my way to the main staircase. Each step creaked under my weight as I ascended to the second floor. To the right stretched a long corridor, doors lining both sides. At the very end, a room with an open door. The hallway seemed longer than it should be, stretching with each step I took. The floor beneath my feet felt solid, yet somehow insubstantial, as if I were walking on a memory rather than physical matter. I reached the open door and paused, listening. Nothing but the soft patter of rain against the windows and my own breathing. I entered. The room was empty except for a metal bed frame against one wall. And on the floor, a photo. A Polaroid. I picked it up with trembling fingers. It showed me standing at that same window, looking down. And in the reflection of the glass, behind me, a figure. Not me, but someone who looked strikingly similar. Except with white, pupilless eyes. I dropped the photo, backing away until I hit the wall. My rational mind scrambled for explanations, a prank, an elaborate hoax, doctored images. But deep down, a part of me recognized something authentic in that image, something that couldn't be faked. As I turned to leave, I noticed writing on the wall, partially hidden behind the door. Faded blue ink on yellowed wallpaper. The first sees. The second becomes. The third completes. Back in my car, I tried to steady my breathing. Rain drummed on the roof as I reviewed the footage on my camera. The window was there, clean amidst the grime. But the figure, my doppelganger, was missing from the frame. I drove back to the city in a daze, my mind racing through possibilities. Once home, I immediately began researching everything I could about Lucas Darnell. His social media accounts had been dormant since his disappearance, but I managed to find cached versions through digital archives. His last post was in a private blog. I had contacts who could access such things, where he described feeling that someone was repeating his day. As if he wasn't the original, but a reflection of someone else's actions. He wrote, "I speak, and hear it twice. I think, and someone already knows it. I live, but feel that this isn't my life." I dug deeper. Lucas had been a photographer for a local newspaper, specializing in urban exploration. His last assignment before disappearing had been a feature on abandoned buildings in the Seattle area. One of those buildings was Evergreen Haven. His nephew, Sam, a computer science student at the University of Washington, had posted an audio file found in Lucas's cloud storage. It contained a distorted voice, electronic but with a clear phrase. "He was here before you. And now, it's you." I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that window, that face, my face, looking back at me. By morning, I had decided to return to Baxter Lane. This time, I brought a digital voice recorder and a second camera. Mia called as I was loading my car. "Where are you going?" she asked, concern evident in her voice. "Back to Evergreen Haven. I found something yesterday." "What did you find?" I hesitated. How could I explain what I'd seen without sounding like I'd lost my mind? "I'm not sure yet. But it connects to Lucas Darnell." "Oliver," Mia said carefully, "I've been looking into Darnell's case. His body was never found, but they discovered blood, his blood, at Highland Road Hospital. A lot of it. So whoever sent that letter, it wasn't him." I glanced at the Polaroid on my dashboard. "I know. I think it might be me." The silence that followed was heavy. Finally, Mia spoke again. Take Rachel with you. Rachel Winters was our field producer, a former crime reporter with a practical approach to the unexplained. I started to protest, but Mia cut me off. Non-negotiable, Oliver. You don't go alone, or we pull the story. I reluctantly agreed, and an hour later, Rachel met me at a coffee shop near the highway. So, she said, sliding into the booth across from me, Mia says you're chasing ghosts again. I pushed the letter across the table. Rachel examined it with professional detachment, then looked up at me with sharp blue eyes. And you think this is from a dead man? I think it's from someone who wants me to believe it's from a dead man. She nodded, satisfied with that answer. What's the angle? Not sure yet. But yesterday I saw. I trailed off, then decided to just say it. I saw myself in that building. Rachel's expression didn't change. She'd heard stranger claims in our line of work. Like a reflection. Like a person. Standing there, watching me. She took a sip of her coffee. Twin. Look-alike. Someone wearing a mask. Maybe, I conceded, though I didn't believe it. Let's find out. It was early afternoon when we arrived at Evergreen Haven. The rain had stopped, leaving the air misty and thick. Rachel whistled low as she surveyed the building. Creepy place, she commented, retrieving equipment from the trunk. Perfect for your channel. Inside, the building felt colder than it had the day before. The emptiness seemed more pronounced, more deliberate. Rachel moved with professional efficiency, setting up lights, checking audio levels. I led her upstairs, to the room with the Polaroid. It was gone. In its place, a different Polaroid showed Rachel and me entering the building, taken from the second-floor window. This is impossible, Rachel said, her composure finally cracking. We just got here. On the walls, there were writings. Some scratched into the plaster, others written in marker. The mirror doesn't lie if you don't look, you came willingly. It means you're ready, choice is a myth. I turned on the voice recorder and began speaking, documenting our location, the appearance of the place, what I was feeling. Rachel moved through the room, filming everything methodically. At the 17-minute mark, the recorder hissed and shut off on its own. Rachel's camera flickered, the battery indicator dropping from full to empty in seconds. Equipment malfunction, she suggested, but her voice lacked conviction. Let's get out of here, I said, suddenly aware of how quiet the building had become. Even the sounds of the forest outside had faded away, as if we were sealed in a vacuum. Back at my apartment, I reviewed the recordings while Rachel made coffee. The audio played normally until the end. And in the final seconds, my voice, though I hadn't spoken these words. Look to the right. I turned, and caught a glimpse of a shadow moving past my apartment window. 12 stories up. Rachel didn't see it. She was focused on my camera, which had turned on by itself. There was a video I hadn't recorded. In it, I sat in the abandoned room at the hospital, saying, I've been here before. Stayed forever. Oliver, Rachel said slowly, when was this recorded? It wasn't, I replied, attempting to delete the file. It wouldn't erase. Each time I tried, it reappeared under a different file name. And each version was slightly altered. In the latest one, I had stopped speaking. I just sat and stared into the camera. And behind me, footsteps could be heard. Rachel left around midnight, promising to return in the morning with Mia. I didn't tell her about the second letter I'd found slipped under my door while we were reviewing the footage. No address, no name. Inside, a memory card. I hadn't opened it. Because handwritten on the envelope was, You've already seen, now, B. I sit at my desk now, the memory card beside my keyboard, the Polaroid propped against my monitor. Outside, the city lights blur through the rain-streaked window. My reflection watches me from the glass. Or perhaps I'm watching it. The question haunts me, what if someone recorded our lives before us, and is now just playing them back, while we ourselves don't notice the repetition? I insert the memory card into my computer. A video opens automatically. It shows me, sitting exactly as I am now, typing these very words. I look up, into the camera. Smile slightly. Then glance to my right. And see myself, standing in the corner of the room, watching.